A warm welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our audience from all across the globe, and thank you for joining today's live session. So in the next approximately 30 minutes, you have the chance to learn more about the latest innovations in SAP Cloud ERP Private 2025 as part of the Feature Pack Stack '01 release. So today, I am very happy to have Vinay V as expert with us, who is part of the SAP Cloud ERP Private organization at SAP. So you, the participants, have the chance to ask your questions. You can do so by using the chat window, and we are more than happy to answer them right after the presentation part. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over now to today's experts, and Vinay, the stage is all yours.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Sinan. Thanks for the nice introduction, and welcome everyone from wherever you are joining. Thank you for taking the time off, and pretty excited to talk about the Cloud ERP Private Release 2025 FPS01, which got off the doors of SAP just few weeks ago. And part of the Cloud ERP Private organization, this is Vinay from Sunny Waldorf, giving you a quick overview in terms of what the 2025 release FPS01 was all about. Most importantly, to also give a sneak peek and a glimpse into some of the innovations around the various topics which are like the key themes of the day, around AI, around data, and leave you also with some resources in terms of how to get there and how to start consuming these innovations and some of the programs what we have set to help you get there. Now, it is always good to get a grounding and a reinforcement in terms of how within the Cloud ERP Private we are aligning with the overall strategy within SAP, and then do a double click in terms of how we are bringing this strategy to life in terms of our investments, our innovation priorities, and finally the key features that really matter to you to run your business processes. So the broader vision that we within SAP have set is to really take the advantage of the interplay between the application data and AI. There is a lot of noise and momentum in the market in regards to the AI, but we firmly believe that it is the interdisciplinary interaction between the artificial intelligence, the data at large, and more importantly, the application which runs the business processes. The interplay is of utmost importance to really help translate the innovations and the vision to help you do what best you are at in terms of running your business processes and your differentiations in your respective businesses. Because ultimately, the applications or the app layer that provides the foundation, it breaks down the silos within the organization. It helps to run the processes seamlessly on a day-to-day basis, and creates that bedrock and that context for the entire interplay to play out. Now, this feeds into creation of the data, which when ingested, which when it is properly structured and governed, has then the ability to fuel into the intelligence that can run across the enterprise, and again feed into the application to help drive some of those intelligence in terms of either optimizing, in terms of driving in the productivity and the efficiency at the business processes. So, and this is a virtuous cycle which we firmly believe will keep the momentum up and help you to run your businesses at your best. Now, if we look at how this is shaping our strategy from the context of the Cloud ERP Private, we can also see that this is what is helping us govern and shape our investments and innovation portfolio. So putting it in the context of the Cloud ERP Private, Of course, the core bedrock of the application is the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, which thousands of customers like yourself have entrusted us to run the business processes for you. Having that extensive industry coverage across 25 industry, having that capability to provide you the flexibility in terms of either configuring it or customizing it to tailor to your business needs, and having that global coverage that helps you to run your operations and enterprise at scale, right? So that whole cloud ERP private, the whole SAP S/4HANA cloud forms that bedrock of the application layer, which we are enhancing and taking advantage of the innovations, as we shall see in the course of the discussion today, in terms of the investments what we have made to help make more sense and derive those insights through the business data cloud, and how we are achieving that particular capability through our investments in the business uh, data domain. And finally, of course, to see how we can meaningfully bring in the power of AI, not just to improve the interactions of the end user, which is a prime focus area in the way the AI has shaped up and is still shaping up in terms of its ability to bring that different experiences and different ways of engaging with the end users, but also to see how meaningfully we have looked to embed AI across the core business processes, the processes that matter to you for running your business. So the flywheel of investments across the application data and AI is front and center, and is quintessential to the strategy of what we are delivering also within SAP Cloud ERP Private. And said we just got off the FPS01 release few weeks ago, and pretty excited to double click and get a glimpse of how these uh, strategies are playing out across the diverse lines of business that SAP Cloud ERP Private supports, be it in the domain of procurement, supply chain logistics, manufacturing, R&D, sales, and service. As you can see, there are innovations that have been packed across all the lines of businesses with our feature pack stack one of 2025 release. The slide is busy, and there are a whole lot of innovations. But what is also interesting to see is the different color coding that we have. Quite prominent is the purple one, which represents those unique innovations which are in the domain related to the artificial intelligence, Joule and the embedded scenarios, and in many cases the agents which are in beta release for now across different lines of business. Pertinent to also note that these AI related innovations are available only for Cloud ERP Private, that you need to be on SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition to take advantage of some of these differentiating capabilities that AI helps to bring us in those business processes. We also see innovations in the data side of the house, which is highlighted here in the dark blue, where we continue to invest and make available a variety of the data products, which we shall talk about, to help you to feed into that data layer so that it can further fuel many of the artificial intelligence cases, but also help to derive insights through meaningful, insightful applications and the viewpoints that that can be delivered with the help of these data products, which are delivered out of the box. And of course, innovations that are happening right across the application space, across various lines of business. Now, we talked quite a bit about AI, this being the hot theme and the topic, not only within the tech space, but also in many of most of your enterprises. We see that happening, easily infusing in our day-to-day lives, and this is also a top priority, as we've been discussing with many customers. Now, how is it that we look from a cloud ERP private perspective, the whole domain of AI? I said the emergence of AI as being the fundamental way of interaction is really looking to unlock productivity for the end users. This is where we we firmly believe that Joule as our AI-powered assistant is helping us to establish that as the not only just the interface layer, but elevating itself to become the engagement layer across the enterprise, right? So we firmly believe that AI within the context of the cloud ERP private, and particularly through Joule, helping to drive the productivity for the end users. I said, on one hand side, it is about the end user engagement experiences that AI can play a significant part. But more differentiatingly and more importantly to this audience, it is also about how we bring the aspect of AI to help optimize many of the business processes. And this is where we are looking at the embedded scenarios where AI can help to drive those differentiating business processes to help drive productivity and efficiency within the organization. Now, even as we speak about the AI, since last a year or so, the domain of agents has really picked up in the ability of it to break down a particular user request and to have that intent-based orchestration of feeding across or doing across different applications, if you will, or different applications area to help solve a problem. So the whole aspect of agentic AI to provide that transformative benefit to the organizations is shaping up. And even within the Cloud ERP Private, we have nearly 10 agents that are available, that have been available for the customers to actually try and be part of the beta program to have that firsthand experience. And of course, for many of the Cloud ERP Private customers, it is important to have uh, many of the scenarios and the business processes that are very specific and unique to them to be also extended to leverage the power of AI. This is where the whole approach of support for the custom AI built on the SAP Business AI foundation becomes extremely important. And the rate of change of AI, the rate of advancement of this technology is so high that we are already looking at it's not just about the agent sitting within a particular application area within the enterprise, but its ability to also talk with other applications, the other agents sitting on other applications to have that collaborative engagement across the entire enterprise is where things are shaping up. And these are also some of the investment areas and the innovation focus areas within the Cloud ERP Private. Now, if we double click in terms of the Joule that we talked about, right, we started to introduce Joule about a year and a half back. It's quite well into its journey and supports a variety of interactions for the end user. And many of our customers have already embarked on embracing Joule within the context of Cloud ERP Private, where using the simple natural language command of the end user, it is able to provide the requisite information, be it on the business object, on the business process that it can source from the rich data sources that it is trained on. Help you to navigate to the different application areas within Cloud ERP Private, and almost all of the lines of businesses that Cloud ERP Private supports have been extended to support the interactions through Joule. So being able to take to different applications within the Cloud ERP Private, to open, to read, to access different pieces of information, but also to carry out transactions in terms of either creation, updation, or changing of the particular objects. These capabilities are made available. And what we have also further extended on, especially around the 2025 FPS01 release, is the support for the analytics capabilities, where meaningful representation in terms of the charts and graphs, which help to uh, depict in an intuitive way the information which is sitting behind in Cloud ERP Private. All of these bring in an intuitive experience and simplify the way the end users would interact with the system and engage with the Cloud ERP Private environment. Now, as said, in the last 16 to 18 months, we have also come a long way in terms of supporting Joule and extending the support of Joule for multiple languages. Initially, we started with support for English and German, but now it is expanded to nearly 10 languages, including French, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, simplified Chinese, and many more. So more details in terms of the language which are supported out of the box are there in the help documentation, which we have provided a link for your further usage. Now, clearly, the capability of Joule is to simplify the way the end users would interact and engage with the systems, and we have consciously looked to bring in the aspects of Joule across the different lines of business or the application areas within the Cloud ERP Private. Now, one of the key application areas has been around project. Most very frequently used by thousands of customers across. And here we are looking to see how we can simplify the way the project managers and the project staff members are able to interact using Joule and be able to carry out their day-to-day activities. Not only being able to access the information and be able to navigate to those project-specific apps, but also get a quick summary in terms of how the projects have been performing or what have been the quick changes, be it in terms of the responsibilities, in terms of the timelines that have happened on the project that the end user can be intuitively updated on, right? So these are some of the capabilities what has been released as part of the FPS01. Right? Very common theme when it comes to managing the project is also in terms of having the financial view. So the representation in terms of what the costs have been and what have been the categorization of the costs, whether it is equipment, whether it is personal, whether it is procurement related and so forth. Providing that quick snapshot in a graphical format in terms of how, for example, the cost breakdown has been along the project is something that is also supported leveraging the power of Joule. So ability to get a summary of the project, get a quick intuitive overview in terms of the performance of the project, specifically looking at the cost breakdown as an example, be able to update the relevant uh, project related deliverables, and more importantly, to find out the missing parts, which is helping from successful execution of the project, right? To ability to find a list of the missing parts and then be able to take the requisite remediation activities is what has been enabled as part of the FPS01. Now, when it comes to the product development activities within the organization, one cross enterprise area is the domain of change management. Right. So this is one process which ties in and brings in the stakeholders from different parts within the organization, and is a streamlined process which really ensures that any change is carried out in a well orchestrated and a streamlined manner. Now, all of this information are available and tied into the change process in terms of the ability to see what are the objects that are affected, where else a particular change master, for example, is getting used, right? Or where a particular part which is affected by a particular change process is whether it is consumed in or is part of other change processes. Now, these informations are available within the context of the application, but as end users, we all know that it is some effort to make those association, access those information, and kind of build out the know-how in terms of looking at the impact and looking at the various impact or analyze the impact for those particular changes. Now, this is where the power of Joule comes in handy to give this vital information, this important information for the change agent or change engineer, for example, to have this information with a simple question asked to the system, right? So a quick summary of where the changes are, a quick summary in terms of the traceability information for a particular change. All of these are provided by the system by Joule when a simple question in terms of a quick summary of the change record for whatever is being carried on within the organization or performed by the individual is asked, and these are summarized intuitively by Joule. So this is again a capability which is delivered as part of the FPS01. Now, it is not about just providing the intuitive experience for accessing the objects or for reporting purposes, but we have also looked at meaningfully bringing in the power of AI to help strengthen the performance of the respective individuals in different lines of business. So, for example, in the domain of sales, one of the common things that we have been working on since the introduction of the AI capabilities, I guess since 2023 release, has been to see how we can bring in the power of AI to not only smoothen the way the sales engineers and the sales personnel work with the system, by simplifying the way they access the information within the environment, but also help them to carry on the complete fulfillment process, to have that insight into the fulfillment process and expedite them appropriately, well within the guardrails that is defined or well within the authorizations that are defined within their respective organizations, and use the power of AI to kind of expedite, right? Break down the number of activities they do and help them to focus on the outcome is one of the ways what we've been looking in terms of leveraging the power of AI. And this is also the case for the sales engineer. For example, now the pricing specialist not only has the information of the summarization of the objects that are there or the order items which are there within the sales process. We further expanded that with the support for the fulfillment process to help identify and understand any of the order fulfillment issues, which we shipped as part of the 2025 FPS 0, even with the explanation of what those blockages are, for example, which is preventing the fulfillment of the orders. Now we are further expanding that to the one of the key topics from a sales standpoint, which is the ability to manage and understand the pricing conditions, right? So here we are looking to say how we can leverage the power of the natural language processing capability of Joule to help the pricing specialist uncover the topics related to the pricing conditions, and also enabling or providing a means and a mechanism for them to update. So let's take a quick look at an example. So here the pricing specialist, for example, is looking to understand how to deal with the different pricing conditions which are there. So Joule understands the context, but requires a little bit more specific information in terms of what is being expected from the end users. So here the end user is looking to find out the pricing elements which are expiring within the sales organization of interest, right? So a simple natural language command provided to the environment, and Joule is able to fetch all the relevant prices which are maintained. Few of them related to the materials, few related to the product hierarchies, maintained within that particular sales organization, and bring up that list. If required, it can also enable you to get to the app. It enables the end user to get to the pricing condition app to then list out all of the condition records, right? Now, it is key to understand that while we make it simpler to have access to the information, it is also rigorously checking if this end user is actually having the relevant authorizations, right? Know what is defined for his user and profile, whether they have that right authorizations to have, number one, access to these records, and also then the ability to make those changes. So in this case here, assuming that the end user has the access to the backend information. So they're looking to extend the validity, right? Now, again, it is asking for a specific information of how long or by how much should the validity of these records need to be extended, which is then clarified by the end user, right? Now, typically associated with the date change is also the conditions of like, for example, whether there's a reduction in the price by what percentage and so forth, typically carried out. And this is what is intuitively suggested by Joule as well, to say if any further changes have to be performed, for example, by decreasing the pricing conditions. Now, being confirmed by the end user to increase it by 1%. Now it triggers in the backend the standard processes to carry out these changes, and then also reports back saying that the pricing conditions for all the five records have been updated, even allowing the end user to actually access those jobs and see that these have been successfully carried out. So the key thing here is, again, while we make it easier for it to interact with the system, the enterprise guardrails are firmly kept intact. Now, in terms of the application of AI, it is not just about making the productivity enhancements for the end user, but also looking about the productivity and efficiency of the overall process. So there are just a couple of examples that we would like to run through. In the domain of logistics, so in the warehousing, we have had this predictive labor demand planning, where in the normal scheme of things, there is warehouse manager or specialist who is actually carrying out these in-depth analysis of the performance of different resources within the warehouse, compare them or benchmark them across the regional warehouses, create those standards, make sure that these are well represented and captured within the system, right? And once the warehouse operations or activities are performed and carried out, these are checked against what was planned, what has been actually executed at the warehouse level, and then correspondingly, this analysis feeds in to the next round of iteration, which is a very tedious and a time-consuming process. And this is where we have looked to leverage the power of AI, where with the AI-assisted labor demand planning, once it is enabled within the Cloud ERP Private, the the historical information is already available and maintained within the system, which is leveraged, and using the machine learning algorithms, this along with the execution tasks or the planned orders which are there for execution, these are combined to then predict the required labor demand within the warehouse. Now, we started to introduce this capability in the previous feature pack stack for warehousing. Now, this has been significantly enhanced to look at not only the picking and the packing, but we are also able to include the information and plan for the staging related activities. Now, the support for this labor demand planning is for outbound activities. We have ensure that this is supported for all of the RF-based executions that happen within the warehouse, but also to support the two-step pick process. We have also expanded the scope by providing relevant APIs so that the information that are happening in two-step process are also captured and effectively used for making the predictions on the required labor. Now, the information can be looked from various perspectives in terms of not only the timeline, the duration part, but also by number of pieces, by uh, the volume and weight, and specifically also look at the different areas within the warehouse, or look at the different activities where the resources are consumed and needs to be better optimized for. So one more quick explanation in terms of how we are meaningfully bringing the power of AI to support the processes. Now, the goods receipt is a classic process that all of the organizations dealing with manufacturing, storing, and then selling the products are typically engaging with. And the supplies are coming into the organization, into the factory gates, where the truck driver typically hands out the order, either the delivery note or the consignment order, which are then manually entered within the system by the clerk sitting at the factory gates to check for the correctness of the information that has been shared, to check for whether those products are rightly represented within the system, entering the quantities and so forth. And once this information is transferred from the paper, so to say, into the system, it can then go through the rest of the logistics processes within the environment. Now, for a mid-size facility or a mid-size factory, for example, I mean, this would take anywhere between like 15 to 30 minutes, just to receive that paper document and to translate that into the system, into the SAP environment, to go through the whole process. Now, which is where we are meaningfully leverage the power of AI, where we are fully automating the ability to scan the document, whatever is handed at the gate, and then use the power of AI to run through the whole process in terms of creating the corresponding records or updating the records within the Cloud ERP Private, and making sure that the correctness and the validity of the information is authenticated, and use the human judgment only for managing the exceptions, right? Only if there are exceptions that have been flagged, either in a quantity mismatch or in a product material, which has not been appropriately mentioned, only those exceptions are handled with the human oversight. Otherwise, it would help to create all of those objects or help update all of those objects within the system. So we started to provide this capability since the FPS 3 of 2023 release. No, we started with the simple delivery document. We expanded that to support the shipping document in the FPS 0 of 2025. And with FPS01, we have expanded to support the complete bordereau. So that's the uh, truck driver's manifest, if you will, which contains the list of all that is contained within a particular truck, that needs to be then understood and meaningfully put into the corresponding orders and the objects within SAP, so that can go through the successful goods receipt process. So this helps to cut down the amount of time that is typically spent, and helps drive the efficiencies. Now, switching gears a bit, looking at the data products. So I said this is a key area where we are looking to provide out of the box managed SAP data products. So when we say data product, this is the information that contains not only the definition of what the business object is, but also the relevant APIs, which are like meaningfully packaged together, that it can feed itself into the larger analytical processes and reporting that might be required, but also to feed into the AI related processes within the organizations. Now, there have been close to 200 data products that are being made available across all of the lines of businesses within the Cloud ERP Private. We include a brief link into the Business Accelerator Hub, where you can investigate and evaluate what are the data products which have been made available out of the box. The data products help to significantly solve the problem of keeping the data, number one, consistent, not having the need to duplicate and replicate the information time and again whenever there is an update. So it works on this technology principle of zero copy. So which means that once the data products are established, there's only a delta share that happens. There's no need to replicate and duplicate the data to ensure the consistency of it. So which is a critical success factor when it comes to leveraging from analytics perspective. The other significant advantage is that it also has the enterprise context. So it's not just pulling from the table, but also knows in which context particular data is represented. So the context is kept intact. There is no replication or duplication of the information. It works on the zero copy share, which helps to ingest the information not only coming within the SAP portfolio, but the data product, the business data cloud itself provides that environment to also easily ingest the data which is lying outside of the SAP application areas, which is typical in the context of the enterprises. So the data products which are coming there can be very easily ingested, so that a meaningful representation can then be built out for analytics purposes. Now, the third pillar within the triad after AI and data is the application, and there have been a variety of innovations that have been delivered as part of the FPS01. But one of the significant development has been the continued innovations, what we do in the multi-stage intercompany transfer. Now, intercompany sales or advanced intercompany sales was introduced in 2022, with the primary intention to solve or streamline and automate the business processes between two organizations, where there is a selling company which has taken an order for the customer, which is focused on the selling, but the delivery is happening from a different plant, from a different organizational unit, right? Of course, by manually creating the sales order and purchase order between the organizations, and carrying out had been the fallback or the default option. But what we solved with the support for the advanced intercompany sales is to streamline and automate the process, where just the sales order from the selling company was sufficient enough to trigger and create those lockstep activities that allowed for harmonizing the logistics execution between the systems, automatic creation of the purchase order, automatic handling of the goods issue and the goods receipt, but also provided for an integrated no financial execution in terms of the billing and in terms of the consistent pricing and taxations being applied in this process. This was built on the value chain analysis framework, which also gave that framework for monitoring this entire process and managing that exception. Now, with 2025 FPS01 release, we have taken this to the next level, where we are supporting multi-stage, which means it is not just between two units within the organization, but as we can see here, this can be three or more entities that might be involved in such a complex chain of transfers. So we have introduced a financial chain. This is a object which has been exclusively created to support the process, which actually contains the way in which the flow of goods, for example, between the plants are actually represented. Now, the logistical processes are handled easily with this integrated chain. Creation of the purchase order, creation of the deliveries and the invoices between the different entities, the financial reporting and the financial consolidation and control. These are enhanced and realized, and the ability to also do the valuation and reporting, at the profit center level, at the plant level, at the group level. That flexibility is provided and built in, and of course, the robust framework of the value chain analysis to give that oversight of the overall end-to-end process, with the ability to identify those exceptions and manage those exceptions, have been provided. Now, this is a significant capability which helps many of our customers for that distributed environment for meeting and managing the customer demand. Another area of innovation has been around asset management. Especially in heavy industries, heavy manufacturing industries, for example. The topic of LOTO, or the lockout tagout, is a key requirement, wherein we basically say if there is an equipment or machinery, if it is to be stopped from, if it helps to create, or if it creates any of the hazardous energy or hazardous gas and so forth, there is a well-defined and a proper mechanism to shut it down, to make sure this is isolated, and then it has to be in a position where it can be again made open for others to have access and work on it. This is a well-defined process. There are even standards, for example, in the occupational safety and related standards, for example, the OSHA in the US, which legally make it a requirement to ensure that the organizations are following this strict procedure. Now, with the FPS01, we have the capability has always been supported through the work clearance management and so forth for a long time within SAP. What we have done with the FPS01 is to streamline this process and provide a newer experience in terms of how to carry this process. So basically, we have introduced newer apps, for example, to define those templates that could be leveraged within the organizations. That could be also reused across the process for the LOTO, and also defined the ability to develop or produce those certificates, having the four-eyed principles, tying it to the work clearance management, to the orders that are there, so that you streamline the process of making sure that the certificates are provided, that there is a four-eyed principles followed in terms of the creation of the certificates, and it is also tied to the work orders and the work permits, so that everything is in lockstep and the process is carried out in a streamlined fashion. In the domain of the supply chain, for example, a couple of innovations stand out. In addition to the AI-related topics that we talked about, we have also looked to enhance and provide better confirmation capabilities for the customers in order promising scenarios. Now, we have had mechanisms of product allocations and supply protection to ensure that there is a greater customer focus when it comes to fulfilling and meeting the demands at the organizations, particularly CP industries, for example. Now, what we have done is to extend the scope of the product allocation and supply protection to also include the sales quotations, right? So which means that whatever quotations have been created, the required quantities are, for example, are also included when allocation checks are performed, right? So when product allocation checks are performed, whatever has been outlined within the quotes are included as part of the check. So which then ensures that when these quotes are getting converted to the orders, that the organizations are able to fulfill them and ensure a higher customer satisfaction and 100% order fulfillment. Now, this is expanded for the product allocation as well as for the supply protection areas. And in the supply protection areas, of course, the complete requested quantity is considered. And typically, it also works with the probability of confirmation, or what we call as the weighted value. But from a quotation standpoint, for the supply protection, we consider the complete requested quantity, which ensures that whatever has been included in the quote, when they are called off subsequently, no, all of those, whatever has been called off, are meaningfully met and is leveraged to fulfill the requirement of the customers. Of course, when the call-offs or on the orders are not with the initial quoted values, uh, the remaining ones are, of course, released back into the respective groups. The other capability has been around in the domain of advanced shipping and receiving, where we are again looking to simplify and streamline the process in terms of how goods are loaded into the trucks, for example, when those are being shipped out to meet the requirements of the customer. Now, traditionally, within the context of the warehouse management, you need to have the complete activity of picking and packing done before set for shipping status was possible on the business document. With FPS0, we introduced the capability of intermediate stage, where even at the handling unit level, if it was scanned, and it could be set for shipping, so that at least the activities that are required to take it from the warehouse location into the truck, or that could have been streamlined. Now we are taking this one level further to provide even more flexibility, especially in the warehouse oriented operations, or where there are routine transportations that are happening, like transportations happening on a particular day of the week, where we know that this is the ship to party, this is where it is going, that goods can be picked up from the warehouse, can be scanned, and then an automatic match would be done based on the warehouse location, based on the destination and the carrier, for example, and automatically then the freight orders would be created. So there is no need to actually have that elaborate transportation planning or to create those freight orders to let the goods out of the system. But this automatic magic and this ad hoc loading, especially for those routine transportation scenarios, with the capability that we have released as part of the FPS01, will help you to accomplish the successful delivery. Of course, there are also additional baddies and so forth which have been made available for performing those checks. Uh, quick check of time and scaling further ahead. Couple of innovations we just want to quickly highlight. One is on the introduction of this new industrial system master data object. I mean, in terms of the heavy equipment industries, it is a collection of different engineered assets that make up the system, right? Even if you look at a complex either plant or a facility like oil and gas, oil an oil rig, for example. There are production facilities, there are processing facilities, there are storage facilities, there are water facilities, and so forth. Each one is a collection of equipment. It has got electrical, mechanical parts that get into the formation of the environment. And ISO has defined standards which help to group together all of these different components that make up the system, right, and establish a hierarchy for them based on what is the function that this particular system is set to achieve. Physically, what is the product that is contained within the system, and then where is it that this particular set of components or set of systems are located, right? So based on the function, based on what product it is and the location, no one can define as per ISO standards the actual system. Now within FPS01 through FPS01, we have now provided for this capability to define the master data object as an industrial system, including the interdependencies between the equipments and the locations and so forth, to represent the object holistically, so that can then be leveraged to ensure a proper understanding between the different systems that make up a particular facility. And support for the intercompany repair and logistics was also enabled, where it is very common to receive a particular product for repair in facility X, and but for either the availability of the expertise or for economies of scale and so forth, that the actual service is carried out in different locations, say location Y as an example. Now, how do we facilitate seamless movement, both from a logistics and financial perspective, is what the intercompany repair and logistics is enabling for those in-house service scenarios. We have also enabled geo framework tagging for the project-related elements, especially the project and WBS elements, which helps to again bring an intuitive representation of the information of all the objects that are being leveraged or leveraging the geo enablement framework within SAP. I mean, we already have it for many of the asset and maintenance related objects. Now we through FPSO and we have it for the project related objects. So this brings together an intuitive representation of the vital information about the location, about the project, about the asset and service, and we can of course bring together also the information related to the weather, for example, to develop that meaningful dashboard for faster decision making and intuitive way of engaging with the environment. Couple of enhancements around manufacturing, a new dashboard KPI monitor, which typically takes into account the utilization, the capacity of the resources to help them to develop that overview of how the plants are, how the production is currently performing within the environment. Quick last remark on the support for general ledger. So through the green ledger, we did bring in the capability of carbon reporting, having the same rigor as the financial reporting to allow for the triple line, reporting at the corporate level to meet all the ESG standards and so forth. Now with the FPS01, now we have the ability to bring in the information from central finance. So the master and the transactional data from the central finance can be integrated and brought into the green ledger, which is then of course fed from for all the sustainability related topics from other solutions like sustainability footprint management, and these two together can then be leveraged for meaningful reporting it out, through the analytics cloud, or in this case through the business data cloud, which also has the SAP analytics cloud. So this integration for the central finance with the green ledger has been accomplished as part of the FPSO1. And just to bring it to your awareness that the central finance solution is only available for the Cloud ERP Private. So the new customers who are looking to have access or gain access to the central finance would necessarily be then on Cloud ERP Private. So quite a bit covered. So some additional information and resources. So we just last week had a good overview of the key innovations for Cloud ERP Private. We also had a quick overview of how AI is being leveraged by the zero customers. So the finance department within SAP, or the estate department within SAP, have made experiences where they shared their experiences in terms of how AI is being leveraged, but also the executive overview of the priorities that have been set, and some examples in terms of uh, the importance of upgrades and clean core were also outlined. We embed a link to the recording, so if you've not got a chance to view that directly, feel free to access the recording for staying up to date. There are also a variety of blogs. No, this was a rush through of the key innovations, but we also have elaborate blogs, including the ones in the community, where we outline many of these innovations in detail that could be leveraged. To help you get started, there are a variety of programs that have been put in place. Customer care program for SAP S/4HANA is one. There are emails that are provided. They can help you. If you are on Cloud ERP Private and willing to commit resources on your end, then SAP would match the resources to provide that expertise and the connect from the product development team and the engineering team to help you get up to speeds, be it in terms of the upgrade, be it in terms of consuming any of the innovations, including the AI related topics. And we provide a list of the activities that this team supports for your perusal. So, this was a bit of a rush to give you a sneak peek into some of the innovations that we within Cloud ERP Private have been focusing on and delivered as part of the FPS01. And as we saw, we continue to invest along all the three dimensions of application, data, and AI, so that you have AI enabled ERP, that could serve as the foundation for furthering your businesses. With that said, thank you very much for the time. And Sinan, I would pause to see if there are any questions out there.
All right, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much, Vinay, for your valuable and detailed insights in all the innovations coming with the feature pack Stack O1. And as you've already mentioned, we have a couple of minutes left for the Q&A part. And I can also see that we have received some questions in the chat window. So let me probably start with the first one. But before I do that, just a quick hint for the participants who are listening to us now. So you will be able to access the shown slides shortly after the session in the description of the YouTube video. So we will provide a link there leading you to the shown slides, so you can take a deeper look into them if you would like to do so. So with that, let me start with the first question. So we have a thank you, Vinay and Sinan. Thank you very much for the positive feedback. So the first question is, what's the best path to move from on-premise to Cloud ERP Private to be able to benefit from all the AI capabilities?
Oh, that's a very pertinent and deep questions. So firstly, it is good that you acknowledge that the power of AI can be leveraged within the context of cloud ERP private, and that there are multiple routes and paths to actually get to the cloud ERP private, right? I mean, we have had situations where even some of the big ones where they have chosen to completely implement and start fresh within the cloud ERP private. So the approach, what we call as the greenfield approach, that many of the customers have embraced, giving them a clean slate to start their journey within the cloud ERP private. We've also had a lot of customers who do the transition, selective data transition or the blue field, where they say, okay, some of the processes have worked well, are based on the standards or whatever, and they would like to move into the cloud ERP private, taking those along, while then looking to optimize and implement certain newer capabilities. So even that approach is possible. And there are multiple tools that SAP provides and multiple framework that SAP provides to help guide the customers in this transition. So I would strongly suggest to explore these multiple approaches, to explore the path into the cloud ERP private, that you also get in touch with your SAP representatives. You already mentioned you are on ECC ERP environment. To get in touch with your SAP representative who can uh, direct you to the right resources and approaches to help you in this successful transition into the cloud ERP private. And of course, when you are there, then of course you can fully take advantage of all of the AI related innovations what we have seen. To also mention that to help you move from ECC environment into the ERP private environment. Even in this transition process, there are a lot of AI being used to help smoothen and reduce the efforts both on your side, on the implementation side, to reduce the effort and accelerate your journey into the cloud ERP private. So there is a usage of AI in that as well, just as a side remark. Yeah.
Perfect. Many thanks for shedding some light on that. And let's move on to the next question that we have received. So, are the shown Joule agents included in the Cloud ERP Private Feature Pack Stack '01?
Uh, so short answer is that these agents that we have shown as part of the Cloud ERP Private, they are available in beta. They are on FPS01. Again, as said, there are programs where you can register the beta for the beta enablement, so that you have access to these agents that we have provided a short overview on, and they have been improvised or released as part of the FPS01.
All right, so we have one more question in the chat. I think that one has already been answered during your presentation, but maybe you can dig into it a bit one more time. So the question is Joule available in other languages besides English?
Yes, so Joule is available for other languages. I Nearly 10 plus languages are supported out of box for Joule. We did cover that, so it does include German, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic. These are the ones top of mind, Korean and Chinese. There's also a link that we have embedded in the slide. So when we share, you'll also have access to that link, which is an official SAP documentation in terms of the language support available for Joule. Hope that helped.
All right, perfect. So I can see we have reached the top of the hour in Central European time zone at least. And I can also see that we don't have any additional questions in the chat. So with that, thank you very much, Vinay, for taking your time with us today. And also many thanks to the participants. Looking forward to seeing you in one of our future live sessions. So have a great day from my side and goodbye.
Thanks everyone for taking the time, and have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you.